Hello and welcome to Comics X Games 2021. I'm Len, the Executive Director of Hand-Eye Society, an arts and video game organization that focuses on serving the game curious. We're located in Toronto, the place in the water where the trees are standing, and occupy the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Toronto is now home to many other Indigenous peoples, as well as both welcome and unwelcomed guests. Comics X Games is a celebration not only of video games and comics, but also the intersections and cross-collaborations of different artists, developers, and creators in between. We're so excited to announce 5 games that were made in collaboration between games and comics artists for our Comics X Game Jam: Bell Book Subscribe, B-Sides, The Faceless City, Farewell Format, and Miss You Love. Check them out alongside the exhibitors throughout the week. Thank you so much for joining us for this event. I want to thank everyone who's been involved in the project over the past 5 months, as well as our fantastic moderators and volunteers. You can learn more about Hand-Eye Society by following us on Twitter at Hand-Eye Society, as well as subscribing to our newsletter. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you at the end of it.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Amanda Wong, and I am the Director of Partnerships and Fund Development at the Hand-Eye Society. I would like to thank Ontario Creates for making Comics X Games a reality, especially for the support in making our event online amidst this pandemic. I'd also like to thank our studio sponsors for contributing to the return of the Comics X Games Jam this year. Viewers will have a chance to see what some of these studios have been up to throughout the stream. Please go check out Clever Endeavor, Phantom Compass, Flowweaver, and Laundry Bear Games when you have a chance. Lastly, I want to give our team a huge shout out for making Comics X Games happen online, along with the support of our volunteers and volunteer coordinators, Anna Kim and Sam Cuddy. Please enjoy the stream.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Sparks, Director of Technology at the Hand-Eye Society and Production Coordinator of the online platform that currently hosts TCAF, Canzine, and Comics X Games for this online Super Festival. Thank you for coming to this online event that my colleagues and I spent so much time putting together. I won't take up too much more of your time, but we'll be running Comics X Games events featuring many speakers and games every day this week. Be sure to follow us on Twitch to be alerted when we go live, and you can find out more about the Hand-Eye Society at handeyeSociety.com. You can also attend this online festival at the link below, which is brokenpencil.com/TCAF, to see TCAF, Canzine, and Comics X Games exhibitors and jammers. Don't forget that this event goes from May 8th to May 15th, so keep an eye on us. A huge thank you to everybody who's been involved in this project, including our participants, our team, and our sponsors. As well, thank you for being our supporters. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to my team, including Len Predko, Brendan Lehman, Amanda Wong, Royale Edwards, Aaron Demeter, Phil Slyhoff, and Jillian Bleckenhorst, who all played a part in making this possible. Well, that's enough for me. Let's get our game on, and I hope you enjoy Comics X Games.
Time Bandit is a bit of a difficult game to show via video, or even by playing it for a short period of time, because it's a real-time game where everything takes time. The way that it's really meant to be played is for just a few minutes at a time over the course of days and weeks, slowly making progress by saving the game and coming back to it. So for the sake of showing you more of the game, I'm going to be doing some time traveling, that is, cheating, to bring you to the end of processes that you would normally have to wait for to finish. First, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the real-time game mechanics, and then I'll get into the story of Time Bandit. But just to give you an idea of the premise right now, you begin the game working as an independent contractor collecting time crystals for a mining company. Eventually, you discover that they're trying to take control of time in order to make you work for them forever. You just saw the character cut down a tree for wood, which they'll need to build a bridge. But if you cut down a tree, you might want to plant another one, since it will take 24 hours in real time to grow back. That's how just about everything in the game works. One thing you'll be doing a lot is moving boxes with these automatic forklifts that take a half hour in real time to finish moving. I'm accelerating time here so that you can see what the puzzles look like, but if you were actually playing the game, you would probably only move one box at a time before saving the game and coming back to it later, slowly making progress. At first, you'll be tasked with collecting these time crystals for the company, but when you find out about what they plan to do with them, you'll begin to steal the time crystals by sneaking them out of the workplace. When the company catches on, you'll receive a real-time work schedule so they can keep better track of your movements. If you get caught sneaking around while it's not your shift, you could end up in jail. And trust me, you don't want that to happen. But if you're careful, you just might be rewarded for taking the risk. Another significant real-time game mechanic is an energy meter that goes down slowly while you work. It goes down faster while you're completing QuickTime events, so make sure to mash those buttons as fast as you can. In order to refill your energy meter, you have to go home to sleep, and it can take up to 8 real-time hours of good sleep to fill it up all the way. Time Bandit is a strongly narrative-driven game, with a story that unfolds slowly through radio conversations and low-poly cutscenes. In the real-time spirit of the game, the radio conversations work like real-life phone calls that you'll receive from characters only over the course of days and weeks. Of course, you can also call the characters yourself at any time to play optional conversations that may be relevant to the situation you find yourself in. Characters will give you hints on what to do next, as well as encyclopedic details that provide a combination of fictional and non-fictional world building. Sometimes they'll break the fourth wall in humorous ways that are meant to help you reflect on your real-life habits and temporal experiences, and even how you feel about playing the game itself. Time Bandit is an explicitly anti-capitalist game. It deals with themes of labor exploitation, economic crisis, environmental catastrophe, and more. But my intention isn't just to demand acceptance of all the ideas presented. In fact, many of the characters in Time Bandit will contradict one another. It's all situated in a big melodrama with lots of political intrigue, and my goal is just to deal with complex issues in detail to provide plenty of context for you to decide for yourself how you feel about them. Now I'm just going to play a bit of the game to give you a sense of how Time Bandit alternates between slow puzzle solving and narrative segments. This is an early part of the game with a bit more exposition and before the company has deployed robots because they've started to suspect someone is stealing from them. Even the main mechanics of Time Bandit are introduced slowly to fit the real-time feel of the game. You might recall that at the start of this video, we got wood by cutting down a tree. Let's use that wood now to build a bridge. Building the bridge, like most things, will take time, in this case an hour. If you were actually playing the game, you would of course have to save the game and come back an hour later. But since we don't have time for that right now, and for the sake of showing you what's on the other side, let's time travel an hour into the future. Now we've found ourselves with a box pushing puzzle. We should probably think a bit about the best way to solve this before making any moves, since anything we do will take time. It looks like we got a phone call. So she gave us a little clue about this puzzle. We can also call the characters ourselves to play optional conversations that might be relevant to the situation we find ourselves in. But for now, let's take the advice she already gave us and just try pulling this box. This time I'm not going to do any time travel. I want to see if there's other stuff that we can do in the meantime. You can actually do a lot of multitasking in Time Bandit. Eventually, you'll be able to buy more forklifts so you can push more than one box at a time, maybe in different areas, so you're not just stuck waiting while solving one puzzle, but can slowly make progress on different puzzles at the same time. You might be rewarded a bit for exploring and opening up access to new areas and even some shortcuts. Looks like we've finally reached the end of the tutorial. It looks like we should be able to get in here if we push this box, so I'm going to try that. Let's keep walking around and see what else we can find. It looks like there's a lot of time crystals over here, but I'm not sure how to move all these piles of trash out of the way. So we got another hint about this, which makes it sound like we won't be able to do anything here until we get an item back over at the first puzzle. So let's go back and check out how things are going over there. Maybe that box is finished moving? Okay, it's only been a couple of minutes, so it hasn't moved very far at all yet. At this point, I think we should just head home to sleep and save the game, and we can come back later. So this character is asking us when we can meet him tomorrow. If you were actually playing the game, you would have to meet him on the following day at the actual time that you set. But I'm going to time travel us to tomorrow since I think he must have something really important to say for him to come out of the water all dramatically like that. I'm going to cut it off here since I don't want to spoil too much. That was just the first half of the cutscene, and if you want to see the whole thing, you can download the demo of Time Bandit, which is available now on itch.io.
Hello everyone, my name is Beya Khan and I'm going to be speaking about environmental storytelling in comics and video games. So I just want to preface this talk by saying that there'll be imagery of masturbation as well as that of sexual assault. In fact, there's so much, it's the same image of masturbation, but it's used a lot in my talk. So if any of that is uncomfortable or triggering for you, then please take care of yourself and maybe don't watch this talk. So who am I? Well, there's some handy visuals that will, make you privy to who I am. In fact, I do that and myself, and I am open for commissions. There's my Twitter handle on most slides. And yeah, DM me if you want me to make anything. I can do anything, literally. Anyway, I am a game developer and writer from Johannesburg, South Africa, and I am currently doing my master's in film, where I'm examining girlhood in the horror genre. It's very, very interesting, despite my monotonous tone of voice while speaking about it. I'm most notably known in the game dev scene for my IGF winning game After Hours, which is about a young woman that was molested as a child and suffers from borderline personality disorder as a result. So this talk will be divided into 3 parts, the first being semiotics, which is the study of signs and how they're processed. And the processing of these signs are really the crux of environmental storytelling, and also just on the way we understand the world generally. The second part looks at what environmental storytelling is and how it's achieved in comics and games and the affordances that readers and players are granted. Now, for the third part, possessing the corpse of the author, sorry if I clear my throat a lot in this talk. It's just that I'm so ill. Anyway, back to the sentence about the corpse of the author. You won't get really that that's funny unless you're like familiar with the death of the author. If you aren't familiar with the death of the author, it basically means that once an author or creator releases something, into the world that is then viewed by other people, the author's intention isn't as important as the reader's interpretation of that work. So the author dies and the reader is born. So anyway, part 3 is about turning comics into games and games into comics while still keeping the same environment. And I just felt like it was like, we've killed the author when we interacted with the comic, and then we like possess the author's corpse to then turn that comic into a game and vice versa. Do you get what I'm talking about? If not, don't worry. Semiotics. Well, what can I say besides what's on the slide? Semiotics are the study of signs and how they are processed. And like the world is full of signs, from trees to words on a page. A sign is a thing that conveys meaning, an abstraction of something real. If it sounds like I had to memorize that from my first year textbook of varsity, well, that's because I did. Okay, so in semiotics, the sign is composed of 2 parts, right? The signifier and the signified. And the signifier is the process of attributing meaning to something, such as a word or an image. So if you look at the example that I've provided of the dog, the signifier would be the word dog, and then the signified is the mental image that is conjured up in our mind, right? And when we see the word dog, we automatically think of like an animal that is furry and barks and stuff. And most of the time, our mental concepts are like something that we've agreed upon as a society, but also it's informed by our, personal lived experiences. Like if I see the word dog, I'm thinking about how when I was 5 and walking with my sister who was 10, and there was this small dog that's not small if you are 5 or 25, but that's besides the point. It started chasing me, and my sister did nothing. Her crush was the one that ran. He's actually a paramedic now, good for him, and saved me, So I'm very scared of dogs. Other people will think, lovely dog. This is meant to be me doing that. Anyway, so semiotics, yes, very important for the way that we understand the world at large, the way that we will understand objects when it comes to environmental storytelling. Environmental storytelling, 2 words, yet it means so much. I asked a friend of mine who's not a game developer, what does she think environmental storytelling means? And she said she thought that it meant like stories about the environment. And I thought that was very cute. Earth Day had just happened, so the earth was on our minds more than usual, and I guess that's why she jumped to environmental storytelling, being about telling stories about the environment. So how did I respond to her? Well, I cackled like a witch, and I felt very all-knowing, because I thought like, well, I know what that is. And when she asked me, I found it quite hard to explain because it felt like it was so many things that I don't know. I didn't know how to explain it because I'm not very eloquent. I don't know if that came across as yet. So I've decided to show you this picture, which is a Twitter exchange between me and, it's not that well known, but Steve Gaynor, who, maybe I'm giving him fake titles here, but I think he is the CEO of Fulbright. It's a very underground indie games company, but they are known, for their game Gone Home, which is considered like one of the big games when it comes to like games who do it really well, or I don't know if they were the first to do it. I don't know a thing of games. Yeah, so anyway, they are considered to have contributed a lot to environmental storytelling. So I posted this picture, and basically I got this cap when I was like 15. My father got it for me from this emo store, JJ's, which has since closed down. And well, the South African youth have been irreversibly traumatized ever since. And yeah, like a few years later, I wore it for like a while and then wouldn't wear it anymore because I felt like it started being cringy. But yeah, a few years later, I wrote the word like kidding over it, and then I thought like, oh, it's not like embarrassing anymore. It's like ironic or whatever. But when I posted it, Steve was like, this hat is the true spirit of environmental storytelling. And I think, yes, Steve was right. Because if we look at what Bart Stewart, a man who wrote an article for Kama Sutra, says of environmental storytelling, he speaks about it being objects available in a world, arranged in a specific way. And these objects then suggest a story to the player or viewer who interacts with them, right? And obviously, if this hat was like in Gone Home, you pick the hat up, I don't know, you say, this used to belong to my sister. Oh, she's since changed, you know what I mean. So anyway, because environmental storytelling, like I said, I think a few minutes ago when I was speaking about when my friend asked me the definition of it, like there's so many things that go into it. I will now be discussing that across these next slides, which feature all the masturbation I was speaking about. Here we go. Okay, so environmental storytelling connects disparate elements to form a cohesive narrative. And the way that it does this is by relying on us, the player, reader, to connect these elements. And they are usually like, depending, I guess, on like the nature of the comic or video game, the connections are usually more like passive, the connections that we make when it comes to comics, and more active when it comes to video games, because like we'd be, depending on the game, like traversing the space, and having agency to decide the order in which we interact with these disparate elements, and the narrative might not always unfold in the same fashion for everyone, but it might in comics. So anyway, back to this example. If everything present in these two panels signifies something, right? But if we look at the top image, we don't really get a narrative. All we get is a fact, that a woman is masturbating. But when we look at the second panel, we get way more information, which helps to inform the narrative of this comic, and it also helps us to learn more about the girl's identity because of the tabs that she has open. So she has this porn tab open, and she has a Sephora tab open and a Facebook tab open. And all of those things together, along with like the tab on top, makes us know that she's like searching for something to masturbate to, right? And she's, I suppose, decided on this porn tab. So looking at an example of video games, I've taken screenshots from my game After Hours, and when these images are taken out of context and looked at individually, they don't provide a narrative. They hint at the possibility of one, which could really be a narrative about so many different things. But when we put all of these images together and all of the different elements are viewed in succession or alongside each other, they tell a story of a young woman who is hugely triggered by an article that she's reading about sexual assault, and it triggers her because she was sexually assaulted as a child. And in that final panel, we see that after apologizing like to her younger self, she's just left feeling very fragile and raw. Environmental storytelling also invites interpretation. So if we look at like, which sort of ties into like the previous slide of like the disparate elements, but if we look at the open tabs and the bunny wallpaper, the choice of underwear, the message from her mother, all of these reinforces the protagonist's identity, the way that we interpret who she is based off everything that is available to us in the scene. So if we look at the first tab that she has open, this porn site, and look at what she searched in the porn site, we are aware of we've interpreted the type of pornography that she's into, but also she has Sephora as a tab that's open. She has Facebook as a tab that's open. Maybe she is, like I said, it's the interpretation of like signs and whatever is very subjective, even though we've like also decided on it as like a society. But like for me, when I'm looking at this, right, I'm thinking maybe she's looking at porn at first, right? Like, okay, sure. But then she'll move over to Sephora and look at everything that's on sale. And that's going to be the thing that's going to really, get her going, because it's a 15% off sale plus 30% off already of all Sephora products. So, it's a really good deal. And then she also has like Facebook open. And I don't know, maybe she's a boomer, because I don't know who is still using Facebook. Besides like older people and my best friend, who is basically a boomer in an art school girl's body. But yes, anyway, then she gets this message from her mother, hi, sweetie. She probably has a good relationship with her mother, but it also like makes this whole scene just so like, because the last thing you want, when you are indisposed, is to be receiving messages like this from your mother. So anyway, yes, moving on. So I'm looking over the next few slides. I will be looking at environmental storytelling in bedrooms, and just basically the jump from like real life still images to comics and video games. And this image is from Adrienne Salinger's In My Bedroom series. And what she did is she hung out with like a bunch of teenagers that she met in different settings, and she took pictures of them in their rooms, and her only conditions were that, you were not allowed to clean your room, because it needed to be as like authentic to who these teenagers were as people. And yeah, she got to know them, and in her book, she speaks about how the inside of a teenager's bedroom, is one of their most personal spaces. These rooms are like home to a talismanic collection of youth signifiers, from like the homemade punk posters to the piles of stuffed animals that they have, to the books hidden under their beds, and the trophies and the birthday cards, through the years that they have tacked onto their walls. And I thought that like this series was really interesting, because when I'm often designing a game, I used to go into Tumblr a lot, because I felt like the things on Tumblr were really evocative and like good at communicating a story. And a lot of Adrienne Salinger's work is on Tumblr as well. And I know that like some people would just ascribe, I don't know, like girls or young women using Tumblr to some, because of like, the patriarchy and sexism, like to some, I don't know, like fluffy, girly pastime or whatever. And that's obviously nonsense. And even if that was true, so what? But these images are also used by directors as inspiration for set design and like world building and that sort of thing, including for the series Breaking Bad. So a lot of people have come back to Adrian's book, and to the series in particular because of its environmental storytelling properties. And Adrian has said that like the teenagers have everything that they own in their rooms, things from like the past and things from the present. And even though like their identities are changing all the time, because most of the time it's the only space they have that's their own, they have everything in that space, even if they no longer identify with the things in that space, like stuffed animals or, a band that you're not really into anymore. Anything that's like completely at odds with who they are at that present moment. Um, and another reason that I felt including this series was really important to the story is because while these bedrooms tell us so much about these teenagers and their interests and the sort of person that they are, the stories that accompanied these images that come from like the hangout sessions between like Adrian and the teenagers are in total contrast, to what you would see on these walls. Like they don't directly relate to the objects on the wall. Um, and Adrian has said that like that was the point of her series, because if you look at these images of these people's bedrooms, you immediately start stereotyping that like, oh well, he's a punk, she did ballet, what more can I say, so the texts and like the conversations with these people were really important to have in the book because they complicate so much of the narrative and they often in complete opposition to what you see. And she wanted like people who are looking at these environments, to critique like the truth of this image and to think about like purely visual representation, especially visual representation of such an intimate space. So I chose this picture. All of them were really, I don't know, I think I would say interesting because I feel like teenagers are often like more honest. So anything, even if it was like boring, was interesting because of the sort of emotional way that it was spoken about. But I chose Fred H. I chose this picture because when I first, his was one of the few rooms that when I first saw, I was like, what? Like this room, seems like so cluttered and what he sure does love women. And but when I read the accompanying story and like went back to look at the images, it was really, really painful, and just very, very jarring. So Fred speaks about how he grew up in the small town of Michigan, and he was one of 5 Black families. One time in his neighborhood, he said that there were some robberies that were going around, and the robbers were described as 2 Black males, and it was thought that they were in their late teens. And at the time, he was 15, and his brother was a bit older, and they weren't allowed to leave their house for a while because the cops were going through the areas all the time, and like white people in the area started getting very antsy, and his parents got really worried because of the situation. And he said that like they couldn't go outside to play, even though it was summer, they had to spend all their time in the house. And when I like the story is so heartbreaking and hideous. And when I look back at Fred's room, I thought the way that I then interpreted it was that if I looked at all of these pictures, the pictures of like Black and biracial people, and they're pictures of Black excellence, of like sportsmen and singers and people, black people who are out there doing amazing, incredible things. And maybe for him in this way, he felt that he grew up surrounded by black people because they are always where he is in his room, right? And I just thought that, like, it's so powerful the amount of information that we get from a room, but also how much we don't get from it. You know, if we're looking at like a still image. Whereas if you look at comics and games, we usually get way more information. So from the previous image, we did get some insight into Fred's life based on like the images that we had on the wall, but it was only when you read his like conversation with Aiden that you understand more. So for this next image, it's a comic, and with this comic, not only do we get the environmental storytelling aspect, but we also get to see a conversation that is taking place in the setting, and it's in the same room, but it's from different angles, so we get to see more things, and we get to learn more information about the narrative. So in here, the protagonist is a sex worker, and she's a cam girl, and there's an alien who's asked her to show her friend his tubular flap hole, and wants her friend to laugh at him because he gets off on being humiliated. And this is the story that we get, right? But with the environment, it just makes things feel so much more holistic. Like the narrative feels way more full. We get to see, that she has a picture of her cat, who she obviously loves a lot. She's been eating pizza. I don't know, the vibrator is there, so she must have used it at some point, or maybe she just forgot to put it back. There's also a bong, and while she's like speaking to this man, she's so, I don't know, like, oh yeah, he wants me to again, have you laugh at his tubular flap hole, doing stretches, just in a very comfortable environment, being very like, and I think that it's really cool how we get all of this information from a comic, because we get to see the visual aspects as well as the conversational aspect. So bedrooms in video games get to tell us even more when it comes to environmental storytelling, because we can navigate the space and decide which objects we want to interact with, and at which point in the story we want to interact with those objects, which then go on to reveal different things in the story. So in Life is Strange, Max is busy exploring Chloe's room, and we see that there's markings on the wall, and we learn, when we look at it, that this is where her father used to measure her height growing up. And after he dies, Chloe gets really angry and she scratches them all out. So with comics, we don't get to decide the narrative trajectory told to us, since the environmental storytelling, if we look at the previous example, was quite pre-packaged and presented to us in this very sort of static way. And with video games, environmental storytelling is way more dynamic in terms of player agency. Not to like generalize, I suppose it does also depend on the game and the comic and that sort of thing. But at least in this game, environmental storytelling takes on a way more active form of interpretation. Environmental storytelling also establishes a discernible chain of events. So in this game, Clay Loon, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, we can already establish, who the character is and their sort of life within like the first minute of the game. Looking at the first frame, we see them sleeping and they have a coffin, next to their bed, and they have a Vampire Weekend poster. But like, those things don't really let us know that they are vampire. They could just be a My Chemical Romance fan. That's why they have a coffin in their room. And they could just like Vampire Weekend. But it's only like when we, start getting to the second and third frame that we start understanding more about them. The fact that they don't have a reflection, very telling, are wearing this shirt with garlic on it, as like an FU um, to the vampire hunters. And they also have this little sticker with like fang teeth that's on their mirror. And then in the final frame, the complete lack of reflection again, the bat that's hanging on the wall, all of those elements together lets us know what's going on. So looking at the environment and the things that the protagonist is doing in this environment, waking up, brushing their teeth, putting on their barista uniform, it helps us to establish a chain of events, what's going on. Events or objects that are represented within the environmental storytelling is often representative of something larger in the narrative. And it echoes, like something bigger going on in that game or comic world. So this is actually a picture that I took from my own room. And I used my sister's phone to take this picture because my camera quality is that of a Samsung E250. And looking at this picture, there are candles, right? And obviously, these candles are being used. And it's not being used because I was doing like rituals. So just pretend that my life is a game. It is. It's a bad game that got 0 on Steam. But yeah, if my life was a game, then you would know that like I don't use candles because I'm doing some like, I don't know, some sexy ritual or something, or I'm pretending to be a simple, stable boy who is reading by candlelight in like the 1600s. I am burning these candles because I live in South Africa and we have a load shedding problem, which basically means that our electricity just sometimes cuts. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, sometimes for like a week. And that's what these candles are used for. So if somebody were to come into my room and in this game world and they were like looking around and whatever, and they like clicked on these candles, they would know what it would be used for because it is echoing something larger that is happening within the game world. Environmental storytelling also shows things that are taking place at different times in the story. So like with Gone Home, even though you're playing in the present as someone who is exploring this house, the objects that you find within the environment are from different times. And I guess pay homage to different times, right? So there's on the first image, it's a calendar. And this calendar is from 1995, and we see that there was a wedding that they were meant to attend. But then after they wrote down that there is this wedding, it was then further like on in the month of June, I suppose. It was scratched out because they can't attend the wedding, and it says like send regrets to these people. And then after that, there's like a dentist appointment. It shows there's an anniversary trip coming up. There's a church potluck, all of these things are events that happen at or have happened at different times in the story. And then we also have a postcard from Katie, which is you. The person that you are playing in the game, which came from the previous year because it's dated 1994. And then also in 1994, a ticket stub from Sam going to see Pulp Fiction. So all of these elements present in the environment help provide more narrative to the story and show things taking place at different times within the story. So this is the death of the author section that I was speaking about earlier. But to once again go back to the masturbation example, I'm showing how it's possible to transmute comics to video games while maintaining the same environment. So we've already discussed the comic, and the way that I've changed it up, or the way that I've muted it into a video game, is I've given the girl who is masturbating the agency of choosing which site she'd want to go onto. while she's masturbating. Does she want to go on to the porn site Sephora, or will she look at pictures of this guy that she has a crush on Facebook? You can also choose to ignore the message from your mother because, like, Mom, get away. This is not your time, obviously. And also, if you like hover over the porn tab, Sephora, or Facebook, it will also give you like a little blurb explaining what each thing is, which I think would be helpful especially for people who don't know like what Sephora is, or what porn is, I guess. Anyway, the change in the media, that the transmutation means that the narrative does get slightly altered due to the interactive elements, and I think that's really cool. So changing games to comics, I'm using the example of my game After Hours, and this entire scene in the game takes like 3 minutes to play. And I've taken a 3-minute scene and condensed it into 4 screenshots. It's a comic. Now it's a comic. It has text, it has visuals. And while we do lose so much of what the game intended, because there aren't the voiceovers present, there isn't any of the audio and the interactive elements present, we gain so much as well because of the change in medium. It's a way more active form of participation to try and like read into what is happening in the space between the panels, in the white space, I guess, but except it's light pink over here. But yeah, I think that it's actually really cool how the meanings isn't, like as pre-packaged for us as it would be in a video game. So we've come to that special time of the year. It's the end of my talk. And these are some of the takeaways I would like you to take away with regards to environmental storytelling. It connects disparate elements to form a cohesive narrative. It invites interpretation. It relies on the player or reader to connect these elements. Active connections in video games, but also not active, as we've seen in like the games to comics example, and passive connections in comics. And like I said, that's not always true. It depends on the game and it depends on the comic. It also helps us to establish a discernible chain of events. And environmental storytelling is often synecdochal of something larger in the narrative. It represents something larger happening within the world. And it shows things taking place at different times in the story. Just like to say a special thanks to all my friends who have put up with, I don't even know, my behavior during the process of the stalk, and who listened to me speak about it all the time, and who helped me so much and was so lovely and kind and amazing. Claire and Bracken and Tammy and Natasha, Noel and Jess, thank you so much, guys, for everything. And also the 2 texts that I was referencing a lot while working on this talk, and to the Hand-Eye Society for being so amazing throughout the whole process of me constantly being like, I'm gonna submit the talk. Actually, can I have 2 days? 2 weeks, a month. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, there's my Twitter account, commission me, and After Hours will come out at some point by that game. Rock has no reason. Rock got no reason, in fact. Rock got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time.
Okay. So my name is Nelson Carroll, and I made a game called Flaming Million, which is around on the internet, and I'm gonna play a bit of it, just so you can get a taste of it. And I'm gonna like talk about it too. So hopefully it's not too loud. I try to fix the audio levels, but I don't. We'll see. Um, so this game is based on like the area in this game is really based on SUNY Oswego, where I went to undergrad, um, which is on Lake Ontario, um, one of the Great Lakes. And I made this game, I guess a year ago now. So probably last May, right when like the pandemic had just like completely shut everything down. And it is probably a game that is unlikable, but it's the game that I made. And it has a lot to do with glitches. A lot of, probably all of the graphics in the game are graphics that are derived from glitches that I made through a lot of different kinds of processes. One of my biggest regrets, I guess it's a regret, I'm not sure, but everyone always asks me, like, I start in this building and I want to go into the bathrooms, and you can't go into the bathrooms, and, you know, I think it's a choice, you know. This is your dorm room, and your roommate, who's talking about the composer for the Dragon Quest games, who if you know me, you know that I really love Dragon Quest, and that like everything I'm always talking about is just really about Dragon Quest. There's this really nice room in the back of my dorm building at SUNY Oswego. This is many years ago. Yeah, this is many years ago. But there's this really great room in the back. So the campus is right on the lake, and so there's this great room with this huge bay window, and it's just like this perfect view of Lake Ontario. So you could like see the sunset. You know. But this game's also on Steam, where it has a couple really negative reviews. It's not, you know, it's not really a likable game. It's not. That's not what it's about, you know. But I talked to a lot of my friends, and you know, it's like, how do I, like, what does this game need? And someone was like, a map. So I added this map to the campus. So you're like at 1. Actually, you're not at 1. You're next to 1. It'll tell you. Oh, I guess you are at 1. I don't know what I'm talking about. And then, you know, it kind of points to the directions that, you know, you should go check out. So we're gonna go look around in a second. A tour of Flaming Million, brought to you by Nelson Thomas Carroll. It's not too confusing. You know, I have a hard time designing things that are I don't know, likable? I don't know. The NPCs are all kind of based on real people, or like real interactions that I've had. I remember one time I was walking home at night, and this bro, like drunken bro, we were all drunk, but like this real drunken bro bumped into us, and he was like, dude, like, don't touch me. And I was gonna fight him. I was gonna fight that dude, but my poor partner at the time, who, you know, we had a real falling out, of course, was like, I'm gonna break up with you if you fight that guy. And I was like, hey man, I'm just trying to defend my honor. I don't know if any honor. That's not true. So this is the quad. You know, there's a treasure chest here. One of the main sort of design philosophies of Flaming Million is that it's like, you don't know if you're trying to talk to a wall or a treasure chest or an NPC. So everything's all, you know, everything's really blurred together. You know, boundaries have really become confusing. But I guess the main story of Flaming Million is that you're on this college campus, and there's this sort of frat parade, which is sort of this like drunken festival, and all those like frat boys come out, and they're just like totally like ruining everybody's vibe, and it's up to you to kind of rid the college campus of this and like make it a little bit safer for your friends. So this is like a cafeteria. We saw it on the map. Even I talk to the walls. You know, I was just making out with this block. It's hard to tell them apart, especially after so much White Claw. I was drinking a lot of White Claw. This is like the height of like everyone you know drinking White Claw. It was like right when like the pandemic really started. You know, but there's also this sort of like cyberpunk thing going on where, you know, everyone's really under surveillance, and it's this sort of like police state, that, you know, you're gonna undo this a little bit. I was really, really enamored with the, you know, when the protests were really like at their height, and people were toppling, you know, all these statues of like colonizers and slave owners, and that just, yeah, it had such a profound impact on me, you know, watching it on like Twitch. And it's just, yeah, it was really powerful and special. So, you know, you go around, you talk to your friends, and they teach you glitches. You know, all your friends have glitches that they want to teach you, and then you use these glitches to, you know, solve some of the, you know, sort of the boss battles, if you will. It's not a very long game. It's like a short game. It's, I don't know, I can probably run through it knowing exactly what to do in like half an hour. Maybe if you don't know what you're doing, it might, I don't know, take an hour. You know, so then you learn these glitches. And everyone's kind of, you know, speaking in code, so like, you know, just like listen to like what people are saying. You know, but I think I was also really reacting to this like idea of, you know, not being safe in space, you know, in spaces and public spaces, you know, spaces like other people are also occupying, I was watching so much of, all of the protests and like all the news stuff. I was watching on Twitch like all the time, and so what I loved about that is you would follow these heroes around during a protest like all night. They'd be streaming and just like kind of moving all around like a city, and it was just, you would gain this like really interesting spatial knowledge, and you'd really start to understand the like, especially with the protests, and especially when the protests and like the police would clash. You'd really understand like these like roads and like city maps just so intimately, and it was really fascinating. Obviously it's very difficult to watch. So the student union, based on the student union in Soon Yes We Go. I really love this soundtrack. I really like all the songs on the soundtrack, but like this song, it really stands out to me. It's like very ominous. And also all the music was also like glitch music. And then, so there's the dining hall, the student union, and then the third area is the bar that we can't get to yet. This path is being blocked right now. This is based on a true historical event. There's a really great documentary about that event. I can't think what it's called right now, but yeah, if you Google that, there's a really good documentary about it. So yeah, it's just like a small game. People on Steam said there were too many glitches in the game. I don't know if that's true. I thought there was a good number of glitches in the game, but perhaps I'm mistaken. Probably mistaken. I don't know. Like I said, it's probably not a likable game. I don't know. I really love Sokoban. So there's like some Sokoban going on here. That's all I got. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I have to say about that. But I'm really interested in legibility, and these sort of confusions that are happening. Not even the confusions, but also this sort of like assumptions in a game like Dragon Quest, where it's like, alright, like this brown square means that I'm going to, get the treasure, or the most basic assumptions is like, I'm gonna go and onto these green tiles and I'm going to find some animals and I'm gonna murder the animals and like I'm gonna get stronger. Like, thank you. And I'm also gonna get richer. That's sort of like, the super RPG assumption, right? And I love those assumptions. I think they're really interesting, but then it's also like my prerogative then becomes to like, how do I upset those assumptions? He's an NPC based on me, green guy. So if you talk to these people, they kind of give you clues for the first boss encounter. And let's gotta talk to this guy. I'm a barista currently. I'm not sure for how much longer, but I'm also really interested in, you know, this sort of labor, and especially labor under COVID, under pandemic, and like just really thinking about like who gets to work from home safely and who doesn't. You know, that's like, it's been revealed to be like this real class problem, right? Well, there's all these essential workers, but you know, they don't have a choice. You know, I know, you know, like nurses and stuff too, and like people that work in hospitals. So yeah, so you get to these, you know, you find these 3 police chiefs and destroy their statues, and that's the game. I'm not gonna show this part, so that's I guess that's where I'm gonna stop the video. But thanks for watching. Thank you. Flaming Million is a game. I don't know. I don't know if it's a likable game. I'm not sure. I like it. It's like a game that I made that, like, if I saw this game and I hadn't made it, I'd be like, whoa, like, that game's really interesting. But that doesn't mean it's a good game. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please contact me. Yeah. I don't know. That's it. How long have I been doing this? Oh, I've been doing this 19 minutes. 19 and a half minutes. You guys don't want to hear from me anymore.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Sex Games.
We came back to the farm supply store again. The packaging said, if animals could talk, they'd ask for this brand. When I told Denise, she didn't think it was funny. We stood together in the checkout line. The cashier asked us if we were cat breeders. I froze. I couldn't answer them. Denise lied and made small talk as if this were all normal. We sat in silence in the truck as we drove home. It was a long drive. I thought about the fact that we had traveled all of this distance to get medical supplies meant for animals, and this was all that we had. A question formed in my mind. Denise, are we subhuman? I asked her. For just one moment, I caught Denise's face looking off guard. Then she answered, yeah, we are. Aurel, your problem is that what you think's happening to you is some sad, tragic thing, but it's not. That's what you don't get. It's normal. I told her it wasn't normal. She responded, not having trauma is abnormal. If you haven't been raped or homeless or had some sort of massive trauma, then you would be weird. The only reason it seems abnormal is that the successful trans people, the ones who survive, get to tell their stories, get to control the narrative. The ones like us, we die in silence or we move on and try to forget. I told her it wasn't true what she was saying. She replied, "Do you know any trans people who are okay? I mean, really okay?" I guess that's the moment that I started seeing myself as subhuman.
Hey there, folks! 2020 was a wild year for a lot of different reasons, but for those who followed along with us, development on DePowerball has been moving along. For those who haven't seen DePowerball before, please allow us to reintroduce ourselves. D-Powerball is a competitive arena party platformer where the fate of every matchup is influenced by fast-paced gameplay and tactical decision-making. Here's what to expect when starting a new match. Players must determine which game mode to play as well as how many rounds to play towards. Whoever is the first to win the goal number of rounds will win the match and become the Royal Champion. Currently, we have 2 game modes in development. Our traditional D-Powerball mode, where you score points in a round by feeding treats to the Dragon Queen, and we have Tag mode, where the goal is to grab the golden treat and hold on as long as you can in order to reach the target number of points in a round. No matter the game mode, all players start with the same set of powers to help them achieve victory. When a player wins a round, he or she loses one of their powers as voted on by the other players. Once a new power is taken away, a new round begins, and the depowered player must now adapt and figure out how to win the match without their recently depleted power. This cycle repeats until one player has won the set number of rounds and becomes the Royal Champion. With 2020 a distant memory, I'm pleased to announce that you will be able to play D-Powerball both locally and online. That's right, for the very first time, we will have a limited number of servers set up for our first official online quick match playtest. I fully expect you to break the game, by the way, just please don't break it too much. So how can you get your hands on this demo? The first thing you need to do is get a Steam account, and the second thing you'll need to do is join our Discord channel to get the instructions on how to sign up for access. And with that, here are some gameplay highlights from 2020. Enjoy, and we'll see you soon in the pit.
Hi everyone! So today I'm going to be talking to you about Traversal. Traversal is a satisfying new spatial puzzle game developed by Phantom Compass, and it is a relaxing game that offers the perfect balance between chill and challenge. So the goal in this game is to move the light token over the dark circle to complete the puzzle levels. And you're going to want to do that by first selecting a node to tether your light token to it. And then you're going to want to select another node to connect to so that the light token will be tethered in between, just like this. You can have up to 3 nodes connected at one time, and in order to solve a puzzle perfectly, you're going to want to do this in only 3 moves. You can disconnect your token by selecting that node a second time, or you can disconnect all tethers by selecting the player token. By selecting the correct 3 nodes, you will move the light token over the dark goal and complete the level. Collect coins to purchase helpful items in the shop. For example, you can buy hints if you're stuck on a particular puzzle. Collecting all the coins in the level will give you a bonus. Some nodes can also appear on flexible tethers. When connected, these nodes will move to be in balance with all other connected tethers, adding a dynamic challenge to solving puzzles. Traversal has multiple modes of play to suit your mood, like our Chill Puzzle Packs mode, with hundreds of puzzles to work through at your own pace. There's also Daily Puzzle mode, where you can rack up perfect streaks and compete for a high score on a new challenge daily. Endurance mode challenges you to compete level after level of progressively more difficult puzzles, and each move costs a coin. Try to beat your high score before you run out of coins altogether. Sandbox mode allows you to play with and customize your level of challenge. We built this game for people like us, people who need to take brain breaks between work tasks, people that want to relax but not be bored, or just want to slow things down after a competitive gaming session. Traversal puzzles hit this sweet spot in between chill and challenge. We also had streamers in mind. In the settings menu, you can toggle on Streamer Assist and numbered labels will appear on your puzzles. This way you can engage viewers in chat to help you with solutions. The low-pressure gameplay makes it easy to play and still focus on chat. And the music is perfect for chill streams. Traversal also has other ways for you to optimize your chill experience. You can mix and match different music or visual styles to find your favorite combos. We hope you love it as much as we do. Find out more about this game and other Phantom Compass games at phantomcompass.com. Thanks for watching!
Oh no, no. Oh no. Yeah. Oh no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Sleep sleepless nights trying to learn how to die in my sleep. 'Cause I don't wanna be the one to wake up without a heartbeat. Trust me, you're gonna love this thing you'll see. Baby, just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit defeat. It ain't that deep, 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 deep. No, you know I kill for some of your real feelings. Oh no, it ain't that sweet, 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 sweet. No, just as long as you're the one who kills me. 'Cause I don't wanna wake up dead.
Hi, it's Lynn again. Thank you so much for joining us for Comic 6 Games 2021. I hope that you had a great time checking out the talks and the games, and that you had a little bit of time to shop at TCAF as well. A big thank you goes out to Ontario Creates for supporting this event. I also want to thank our sponsors Clever Endeavor, Phantom Compass, Flow Weaver, and Laundry Bear. Comic 6 Games would not have been possible without support from folks like you. I want to thank all of the staff, volunteers, and partners that helped make this event possible. In particular, Brennan Lehman, Jillian Bleckenhorst, and Jordan Sparks for helping us get everything online. Big shout out to Jordan in particular for doing our streaming, as well as Amanda Wong, Sam Cuddy, and Anna Kim for organizing, as well as all of the volunteers who's been helping out as well. All of the talks and games are going to be online, so if you missed anything this week, don't worry. You can also follow us on Twitter at Hand-Eye Society, or go to our website, handeyesociety.com, and follow us for our newsletter. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful time, and we'll see you at our next event.
Hey friends! Thank you for joining us for a jam-packed week-long Comics X Games. With all that has happened in the past year, we hope we were able to bring this event closer to you in the safety of your homes. Again, a huge shout out to Ontario Creates for making this all possible. And thanks to our studio sponsors, Clever Endeavor, Phantom Compass, Flowweaver, and Laundry Bear Games for allowing folks to make games during the Comics X Games Jam. If you'd like to learn more about how you can support the Hand-Eye Society, please email us at sponsorship@handeyesociety.com. I'd like to thank the entire team for their hard work in making this event happen online. You all deserve tons of rest. And lastly, thank you for supporting us by watching Comics X Games. Please take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you all in the near future.
Hey everyone, it's Jordan Sparks again, Director of Technology at the Hand-Eye Society and Production Coordinator for Comics X Games, as well as the TCAF website. Thank you all so much for being here and checking out Comics X Games and TCAF over the past week. It really means a lot to us, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. My colleagues and I spent a lot of time putting this together, and we are so happy to see everybody tuning into our show as well as going to the website and buying all sorts of zines and comics. It really means a lot that we were able to make TCAF a reality this year, as well as showcase all sorts of different games, talks, as well as bringing back the Comics X Games Jam. Thank you to everybody on the team I've had the pleasure of working with, as well as our sponsors, and you for watching and supporting our work. Don't forget that the TCAF website is still up at brokenpencil.com/TCAF, so you can see and buy all sorts of merchandise from vendors and exhibitors. Plus, TCAF just announced that the festival will be extended, so the website will be up until Sunday, May 16th. Use the extra day to make sure you've checked out all of our talented Comics X Games exhibitors and jammers on the website. Don't worry, despite the pandemic, the Hand-Eye Society has plenty of things planned for the rest of the year. Please check us out on handeyesociety.com and sign up for our newsletter to find out what's going on in the community, as well as follow us on Twitter at Hand-Eye Society. It's a trying time for everybody, but I'm very glad that you decided to spend some time with us. We'll definitely be back in the future for some cool new events. In the meantime, though, these Comics X game streams have been archived as highlights in Twitch, so you can watch them anytime you want. We also have plans to put it on YouTube later on this year. So if you missed a day of Comics X Games, don't worry, we got you covered. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaxxed, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.